Welcome to Amy Learns to Cook. On the show today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, cookware. Specifically, we're looking at the Stockpot. Now, I've gotten a lot of questions about cookware recently, and we're going to look at the features, the sizes, and what you should consider in purchasing your next Stockpot. So join me as we look at the Stockpot. So Stockpot is a very important tool in your kitchen. That is because you will create one of the foundations of many of your dishes in a stockpot, and that is stock, right? That is what a stockpot's primary purpose is to create stock. And I know that we are all used to buying stock in a box or stock in a can from the grocery store, and it's good enough. But if you really want to take your cooking to another level, you look into making your own fresh stock. This would require some chicken parts, some beef parts, roasted beef bones, or some vegetables in the case of vegetable stock. And what is great about making your own stock is you control everything that's in it. You control the meat or the vegetables that you use, and you control the level of salt. Because one of the problems with stock in a box is the salt content is so high that you really can't control that in your final dish. Most of the time when I use stock in a box, I don't really put a lot of salt in because it already comes with a lot of salt. Even the low sodium comes with a lot of salt. So the primary purpose of a stockpot is to make stock. But a stockpot is so versatile that you can use it for a whole lot of different things besides stock. You can boil pasta in it, you can cook a bunch of corn, you can make a soup, you can make all kinds of things in a stockpot. So a stockpot is going to be one of those foundational tools that you have in your kitchen. So what do we look for? How do we buy a stockpot? We all probably have some kind of stockpot. But if you want to invest in higher quality equipment, there's some things you should look for when you're shopping to help you get the best pot for your dollar. Okay, so one of the things you guys know is I love cookware, and I could talk about it all day long. One of the things in terms of materials we talked about in my saute pan video is the types of materials that cookware is made out of. And if you would like, go ahead and review that. It's called Amy's Pan Room Saute Pans, right? And I go through the types of materials used in what's good and what's bad in terms of materials for saute pans, which equally apply to stock pots. So we have sort of stock pots in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. They run anywhere from 5 quarts all the way up to 40 and 50 quarts. And what size you need for the home cook, you probably want to stay in the 6-8 quart size range for the home cook. So sort of in the low end of stock pots, this is kind of a wide stock pot. This stock pot is made out of aluminum. And it is very inexpensive. I bought this set to use in my RV, and I probably paid $50 for the entire set. It's very thin. It heats up very fast. As a matter of fact, it heats up way too fast. You can't really control it well. It works good in my RV because my RV, the stove in there, does not have a lot of BTUs. So it doesn't really get out of control on my stove in the RV because it can't even handle anything too much more than this. So if you have a low output stove, like a camping stove or something like that, this piece of cookware is okay. This one is non-stick. It is made out of aluminum. The aluminum is painted. This is because if this is raw aluminum, everything would react to it. So they have to treat it with something. And this one, they enamel it. They basically paint it. And you can see from the bottom, this is raw aluminum down here, and look at how discolored it is. I clean it regularly with Barkeeper's Friend, but it gets pitted, it looks just bad, just because it's raw aluminum. The painted part doesn't get quite that bad because it's treated. But this is really a low-end cookware. You can tell it's thin. It does have a see-through lid that makes it nice. You can see how things are moving along in there. It's not, the lid is not oven safe. I would say this whole thing is not oven safe. So if you're just looking for something basic to use on a camping trip, this is great. But okay, so as we move up the line in terms of quality and cost, right? There's some things that you need to take into consideration when you're buying a Stockpot. Now, I know most of you are thinking that I'm just going to use my Stockpot to boil water and cook pasta and that kinds of thing. Why do I need to invest in something that's really high end? And yes, that is a consideration for you when you purchase a Stockpot. Because to be honest with you, a fully clad Stockpot of any size can cost you $250 to $350 for a fully clad, nice, top-of-the-line Stockpot. And if you don't want to invest in that, you may not necessarily have to. Because if you're just going to use your Stockpot for boiling water and pasta and doing a stock with a lot of water, you don't really need to move up into those higher end stock pots. So why you would move up into a higher end stock pot really depends on if you are concerned with the consistency of your final dish. If you're cooking a dish in a stock pot and you're really trying to get to a certain consistency, you want to be able to control what's going on with your stock pot a lot more than if you're just boiling water for pasta. This is because stock pots like this, believe it or not, people say, oh, you know, it's all about the heat. Stock pots like this get way too much heat. This is so thin that all the heat coming from your burner goes into this pot, and it is just a firecracker. And that's great if you just want to boil water. But if you're trying to control the consistency of your final dish, like in a stew or in a chili, you really want to control that heat, because you can't get this to simmer properly. It won't simmer. It's just either cold or hot. And that is the problem with this kind of cookware. If you want to use your stock pot for more than just boiling water for pasta or making a basic, really liquidy soup, you need something that you can control the heat. They always talk about it in saute pans. When you talk about saute speed, it can heat up and cool down really fast, and that's what's great about saute pans. The problem is when you can't control that heat, when it is just hot or it is just not hot enough. That's a bad thing. So as you move up on the spectrum, you really get a better quality cook out of your cookware the more money you invest and the more quality of materials that are in the cookware. Okay, so one perfect example of this is me and my husband were at a chili cook-off, and we were cooking 2 pots of chili. I had a fully clad pan, and he had a little cheap disc bottom Macy's house brand. And that Macy's house brand is a nice pot. However, when you're trying to get to a certain consistency with your chili, we could not control the thing. It was too slow of a boil. It was boiling everywhere. There was nothing in between, and it really can affect your ultimate outcome of your dish. So this pot is what we call a disc bottom pot, and it is made out of stainless steel, and stainless steel, as we know, is a really bad conductor of heat. It's uneven, it'll be just raging hot. It is not good by itself. So they bond a disc of aluminum down at the bottom. This happens to have copper as well as aluminum in this disc on the bottom. So copper is one of the best conductors of heat. So they try to use that copper to equalize the heat and make it more even. This is kind of a low-end pan. This is an emerald. And it's fine. It's probably in the $45, $50 price range. It's an okay stock pot for basic things. It's not great. It does have a lid that's glass, so you can see what's going on in there. You can't put this into the oven, obviously, with glass. It's an okay stock pot. It's middle of the road. This is 8 quarts, perfect size for the home cook, but it's also, you know, it'll perform decently, but it won't be great. Okay, so the next jump up in quality is what we call fully clad pans. And the same thing with saute pans. These pans are stainless steel on the outside, but they have a core of aluminum all the way through. There's no disc on the bottom. You can tell a tri-ply or fully clad pan, there's no disc on the bottom. It's a sheet of stainless steel, a sheet of aluminum, and a sheet of stainless steel that are bonded together and then formed into the pan. So this is ideally what you want, a fully clad pan. Unfortunately, these tend to be a little bit more expensive. These two are not that bad. This one here is a Lagostina. It's really great. It's one of my favorite brands next to All-Clad. Individually, I'm not exactly sure how much it is. The set of a set of Lagostina, which would include this pot, runs you about $350. A little bit more expensive, but definitely worth every single penny. This is also a fully clad stock pot. This is an 8 quart. This is by Calphalon. This pot will run you about $100. You can buy it as open stock, so you don't need to buy a whole set. The benefit of this is it has a glass lid as opposed to a stainless steel lid. This allows you to see what's going on in there. This you can't, but this can go in the oven, and this really can't. So if you want to cook a pot of beans and you want to start it off on the stove and move it to the oven, this is what you're going to want. You're going to have problems with this because this lid really can't go into the oven like that. So you would have to put a piece of foil or something like that to go into the oven. Obviously I have one of each because I use them most of the time. I'm cooking multiple pots of chili. And I equally love both of these pans. If you are going to invest in a stock pot, this is the way to go. They're not overly expensive. They're two great brands, Calphalon tri-ply and Lagostina tri-ply. Definitely would be worth every penny. Okay, so now we're getting into my favorite kind of cookware. This is All-Clad. This is my favorite brand. And All-Clad does something interesting when it comes to stock pots. These are fully clad pans, 100% clad all the way top and bottom. One thing that All-Clad does is they have sort of two different stock pots. They call this a tall stock pot, and they also call this a stock pot. It's a lot wider, a lot shorter, and it's a lot different than what I traditionally think of as a stock pot. But they call it a stock pot. This stock pot, you can buy it by itself. It is fairly expensive. This stock pot generally comes as part of a set called the Pasta Pentola, which runs about $350. It has an insert in here that you can drain your pasta with, but I believe you can get this by itself just as a tall stock pot. This is ideal. If you want a really fabulous stock pot that you can use to make pasta and stews and soups and chilies, this will boil perfectly. You can get a classic 2, 3, 4, 8 bubble boil when we're talking about chili. And your consistency will be really great. So this is really what's ideal. It is expensive, but it is definitely an investment. This, the same, it's very wide, whoops, and you will get a lot more reduction in this kind of pan than you will in this kind of pan, because this one is really tall and narrow. It won't reduce a lot, but this one, it will reduce a lot more because you have a lot of surface area that is just open for the steam to come off. So you will get a lot more reduction in your dish in this than you will in this. But this too is fabulous. And what's great about this is you can make a big old gumbo in here. You can make jambalaya, and you can do pretty much anything. This is fully clad. This is not an inexpensive pan. This pan is in the $250, $275 price range. You can, like me, the super shopper, get these on sale. I probably got this about $100 off. It was a great deal, and this is a great stock pot. Okay, so some of the specialty stock pots you might find, this is really versatile. It is an all-clad. What's neat about this is it has an insert in here that you can use to drain. So when you're cooking your pasta, you have your pasta in here, you have your water in here, and when it's done, you just lift it out, it drains it. It's a great feature. I don't know if I really use it that much, because it takes up a lot of room in the dishwasher when you're done. Sometimes I just use a strainer, but it is great, and it's a great thing to have. It'll come as a set. This one here is not fully clad. This is all clad, but it is a disc bottom pan. But it's a really good high quality pan. Certainly more high quality than the Emeraldware, even though Emeraldware is made by All-Clad. I just really like this a lot better. Comes with the lid, so you can take this to the oven. This is a really great oven, and this is relatively inexpensive. This whole set is about $100. Okay, so lastly, we're going to talk about the granddaddy stock pot of them all. This is a 40-quart Virtuose, and this is Eric's baby. So he's going to come and give you the lowdown on this baby.
So one of the things that gets me excited about this pot, besides the size, and just to see how deep it is, it's pretty deep. I mean, this thing's huge. It's heavy. So all kinds of good things are going to happen when it's heavy. It's not going to dent. It's going to be very sturdy. You can put heavy stuff in it. So what it may not be the greatest for, unfortunately, is maybe frying or deep frying turkeys, because turkey fryers tend to be narrower and, of course, very tall. So that way you can just go ahead and pull the turkey straight out. Here, you could do it, but it's going to take way more oil. So you probably have to put the turkey sideways and then, I don't know, not have the traditional thing that goes straight. So I don't know how that'd work. We might try that, and if we don't burn the house down, then we'll film it. How's that? But otherwise, I've seen reviews on different pots, and one of the biggest things is when they ship, they get dented because they're very thin. So what's most, I guess, to kind of think of this stuff, put in perspective, is you get a turkey fryer, the whole base part, cheap by itself, maybe $30. Then you put in a pan. Mostly they come with raw aluminum. Amy discussed raw aluminum will stain. If you deal with acids or other things, then it can leach into your fluid that you're cooking with, your meat, and you don't really want that, and it's horrible to have to clean. But if you're just doing water, it's not bad. Turkeys are fine to a degree with all that. But we like stainless steel because it's, you don't run too much of a risk of any of that kind of stuff going on, if that makes sense. But then that costs way more money. So when you're looking at about $100 for a whole kit that includes a stainless steel, they're really thin. And a lot of bad reviews I've seen on the different online sites because of that. What we did was, first of all, and we're going to do another review in the future here that's going to cover all this good stuff, but Amy bought me this monster outdoor fryer. I mean, it's 100,000 plus BTUs. It's insane, okay? That's what kind of got us on the idea of putting this guy on it. But the bottom line is you can cook gumbo, boil a lot of hot water, so I imagine you can do probably 80,000 ears of corn in here, and it's not going to miss a beat. It's going to be great. It's got a disc bottom that's not super thick, but I think because the surface is heavy, the surface area is so huge, it probably doesn't matter. I think it's going to transform it pretty good. You don't really need fully clad, and if you did, this would probably be a $1,000 pan or pot. We got this guy at a ridiculously sale for about $100. I would probably say a quality like this would be closer to $300 to possibly $500. I've seen some as high as $600. So this is a Virtuose. It came from a really good place that we buy some of our stuff. They supply high-end hotels with things. So the fact that they sell it means it has its own, level of quality built into it. I really believe the reputation. But we're definitely going to try stuff in here, and I'm just looking forward to it. This is big, it's huge, and I think I can have lots of fun, and I think we can all have fun with this thing. I mean, look how huge it is. It's big. Wait, that's an example. Look how, this is huge.
Okay, so that's pretty much Stockpot. It's a great versatile tool that will be a workhorse in your kitchen, and there's a lot of great Stockpots out there at a reasonable price. Just shop around and get the best for your money. You can go to discount stores, outlet stores. I'm always hitting the outlet store, and you can get a really nice pot for a decent price. If you like this video, please visit my website at amylearnstocook.com. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest at Amy Learns to Cook. And don't forget, hit the subscribe button because there are more videos on the way.